Hey, it's a technical difficulty broadcast. It's okay. We had to bring all the equipment in and get things reconfigured. We've been moving around a little bit, so the studio was a little bit jacked up. Equipment we were moving, so we had to get things a little behind schedule to get things right. Okay, we're here. We're sorry. It's 8:26, but we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But right now we are live staring at you. If you've logged on Facebook, we're about to get rocking and rolling tonight, so we've got people liking and sharing this. Do not hesitate. Put this out there. Share this broadcast. Share the podcast. Push the information out, because as I always say at the start of every opportunity, every time we come together tonight on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock p.m., every time we come, I always say, like it, share it, tag a friend. The more we can push the information out there, regardless of where you are on the positions, the ideas, it doesn't make a difference, right? You get to come into this forum and hear honest feedback. You're going to hear what we're talking about. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. You can shoot it back at me and argue, and we can get into it. That's the beauty of it. You can post any comment you want. Well, I don't know about any comment you want. Salo's like, hey, don't invite the storm. Look, you can post comments. We'll get to them as best we can. Salo's got his phone. I'm looking here, but I want to pay attention to our guests tonight too. I'll be watching my tools here to make sure I can get your information and questions answered. But look, be professional, be kind. Let's get after it, argue it, and part friends or whatever. Share the page though. Let's share the information, push it out there, and grow this opportunity. We're over 12,000 followers. That doesn't mean we can't get to 13, 14, 15, so that everybody has information to make decisions. And that's where we're at on it. And that's the whole purpose of the podcast. And we always want to start off. I got to thank Salo Rodriguez and Charlie here with me tonight. Tyler Hall is somewhere out in the world right now working. But thank you to the three of them, the crew that puts this together. If you ever need a podcast, if for some reason you're sitting at home and you say, man, I think I want a podcast, you got to call us. You got to talk. We can podcast about anything. You can podcast about playing the guitar. You can podcast about politics as well, or whatever it is you do in life. You let us know. You can do a podcast. You can hang out. It's a great marketing tool. I'm telling you, it works. Salo, thank you for everything you do. You know, brother, I appreciate you. Charlie, thank you. And Tyler out in the world, we appreciate you. Our sponsors who always help us out as well. Thank you to AAA Garcia Bail Bonds. This is the man, Louis Garcia. I'm telling you right now, him and his family-owned business, AAA Garcia, if you ever get in trouble, you have an opportunity to make that one single phone call, call Louis Garcia. Again, do not mention the San Francisco 49ers or any other football team except for the Green Bay Packers. And do we have a meme on there that says Louis Garcia? I just want to share this with my friend. It's the one that should be titled Louis Garcia. We're going to be a little crazy tonight. We're a little off, but... yeah, there's one named Louis Garcia. Oh, come on, man. Come on. Yeah, put it up. Oh, I'm sorry. Laugh out loud as you did. That's the Green Bay Packers after visiting. Louis, I love you, man. That one's 100% for you. Okay, all right. So we appreciate AAA Garcia Bail Bonds and our buddies at AAA Speedy Salt as well, Tyler Hall. This guy's building a little bit of a business for himself. You got a water softener, you need some salt. You don't even know you need it. Speedy Salt and Tyler will get there and deliver it for you, save you money, time, and you don't have to carry those heavy bags in and out of the grocery store or Home Depot. Tyler at Speedy Salt takes care of it. Thank you very much, Tyler. We love you, man, wherever you're at. And now we'll get into a couple of key things. Obviously, the most dominating news of the day, or the last 2 or 3 days, is Kobe Bryant. It's covered everything. It's been overwhelmingly the topic, no matter where you are across the world. And there's a great photo we want to put up of Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, obviously lost their lives in a helicopter crash over in Calabasas, California. Absolutely devastating to all kinds of people from all walks of life. And there's a lot of debate about Kobe Bryant right now, not just about his success as a basketball player and who he was in general, right, in the public eye, but of course some of the challenges and things he's had in his life and opportunities where he could have done a little bit better or caught a lot of bad publicity or did things that made the news. So we're learning this whole piece about Kobe Bryant. And as we talk about him, and we just have to remember too, this is a family and people are suffering. He's got a wife and 3 daughters that are left behind. And it's just a tough subject. But what you learn today is what I've figured out the last couple days is every one of us has these opportunities to do a little bit better. Some of us make some mistakes. Some of us grow from those things. But Kobe Bryant, by all means, like I learned the other day, I saw a video of him on a car accident site getting out of his vehicle. directing traffic in the middle of a scene of car crash, multiple car crash. He was directing traffic. And then I saw another thing about him being a devout Catholic and how that has helped him through the difficult times in his life. And then there were, of course, other stories about legal issues and things in the past. And it's just a total picture of a human being. But at the end of the day, you know, he died on a helicopter with his 13-year-old daughter. And that kind of shakes the world, man, and makes you want to, I know when I saw it, makes you want to grab your kid and hold him a little bit tighter and be thankful, because you never know. And this is the only thing I guess I really want to say, which you've probably heard this 1,000 times already in the last couple of days. Human being, his daughter, together, just always be thankful for who you are and what you have, man, because it is literally your last possible minute anytime you turn a corner or you're in your vehicle or God knows what you're doing. And people get left behind on that. So we wanted to think about Kobe Bryant there for a minute, as many have across the world. But it's a total story, total life, and total human being there. And we just wanted to make sure we mentioned that. I also wanted to get into, can you put up the Space Force thing? I got to show this, man. So I'm a member, obviously was in the United States Air Force. I talk about it often. But come on, the Space Force from the United States Air Force, the Department of Air Force, they come up with Space Force. What is up with the logo, man? Come on. It is completely looking Star Trek-ish, and it caught all kinds of bad publicity. I didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, but you know what? When I was in the service, Salo, I was actually in the Space Command, the United States Air Force Space Command, and it was stationed out of Colorado Springs there, and that's where Air Force Space Command was, which would eventually obviously become the Space Force. So I could have been a member of the Space Force if I stayed in the military. But I got out. But I'm proud of my brothers there, Air Force, Space Force, kicking off, loving the logo, man, because I love Star Trek, so it works for me. So that's awesome. And then one other little tidbit I wanted to get into, because we're going to talk a little bit tonight with our guest about the media and how things are portrayed and painted, who you are, your life in the public eye. We're going to get into a great discussion with that in a second here as I bring on our guests. But I wanted to show you a clip of Don Lemon doing an interview this evening with people making fun of our president, right? So we get it. Half the country hates Donald Trump and thinks he needs to go away, and then the other half of the country doesn't, right? So there's this crazy balance. Actually, it's probably not half, but it's probably a little more than half that hates him. But it's this crazy balance going on right now. So how do we push all that together and still be respectful of the office? I don't know. I think we've lost a lot of that. But watch Don Lemon, because I think this is a terrible look for the Clinton News Network. I'm sorry, CNN. If we can put this CNN piece up and watch Don Lemon
obviously it's false. And look, he also knows deep in his heart that Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. He knows that this is, an administration defined by ignorance of the world. And so that's partly him playing to their base and playing to their audience, the credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump, that wants to think that Donald Trump's the smart one, and y'all elitists are dumb.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling, even though
your math and your reading.
Yeah, you're reading, your geography, knowing other countries, sipping your latte.
All those lines on the map.
Only them elitists know where Ukraine is. Sorry, I apologize.
But by the way, oh my God!
But you know what? But it was Rick's fault. I blame Rick. But in all honesty, you know what NPR should do?
Why not?
I think the media sometimes takes their garbage a little too far. Now it's CNN. Don't get me wrong, and there are not a lot of fans for Don Lemon in the world, but there are people who follow him and like what he's doing. But that's a perfect example, I think, of the media taking themselves entirely too far. You're trashing the president of the United States. I get he's trashable to half the country, and they want to attack him and go after him and humiliate him. I get it. I mean, the guy's tweeting, he's attacking, he's returning fire. There's all this going on. But, I mean, come on. At what point does the media need to be held accountable to at least be fair and impartial? Don Lemon is right there laughing as the president gets ridiculed and destroyed. You are supposed to be a reporter of the news, right? You're not supposed to create the news and or make matters worse and extrapolate that message, right? Like push it out further that the president's ridiculous or an idiot. Whatever Don Lemon thinks of the president, I'm not there to listen to what Don Lemon thinks about it. And by the way, you have to be reasonably fair. But again, it's CNN. So people wonder why nobody believes the media anymore. And that applies here in San Antonio, too. Everybody knows Express News is a total joke, right? Express News is a ridiculous joke that has a poor readership, that's a dying periodical. Nobody wants to pay attention to them, but they're still out there lobbing bombs. It's like Rick Casey on the Rivard Report today trashing the firefighters. Rick Casey is a dinosaur. He should be writing, he does his math with an abacus. That's how, he's old news, yesterday's news. You got to report what's happening today and be fair and reasonable about it, not biased like the folks at the Rivard Report, specifically Rick Casey in his article today, trashing the union leadership of the firefighters. I encourage you to go read it because it's ridiculous, and I want people to know, right? Normally I don't like to portray bad stuff out there, but Rick Casey needs to be held accountable for his biased attitude and his sprinkling of his horrible takes, right, his ideas and thoughts about what's going on with the firefighter contract, which is about to be settled in the next couple of days. It's going to be settled. The arbitration's about to end. We understand there's going to be pay raises, there's going to be changes in health care. I get it. Things are going to change. But Rick Casey doesn't need to be in there dancing on anybody's grave at the end of the road because he thinks the unions are a bunch of, whatever. I mean, crooks and trying to break the city bank and all these other things. Rick Casey needs to go home and give it up and stop his biased attitude, just the same way Don Lemon and all these other reporters and the people at the Express News. There's people at the Express News, a couple left that still do good reporting. The others, that whole place is done. I mean, it's ridiculous, and we're going to talk about that tonight as well. Bit of a rant there, I'm sorry, but I think it's crazy when the media is creating these opportunities to trash and belittle politicians and people they don't agree with, and it needs to end. So a good comment, too, from, I think his name was Robert Persley. Didn't get a chance to see it, but he mentioned, too, he goes, hey, man, what about the other people on that helicopter? That's a great point. And you can get wrapped up in the whole Kobe Bryant, Gianna Bryant thing, and forget, yes, you're exactly right. There were 7 other people on that helicopter. A great point, Mr. Persley. I think it was Persley. We appreciate you keeping everybody honest to remember, hey, man, there's more to this and people's lives. No life on that helicopter was any more important than the other. So I appreciate that, and thank you for keeping me straight. All right, now let's get into it. We are about to rock and roll with our guests. We have in studio tonight Michelle Barrientes Vela. She is running for Bexar County Sheriff. And man, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I've kind of already segued just a little bit into the media and what I like to call biased opinion reporting. So we have Michelle with us here tonight. Let's get that camera moving. Can we bring her in? All right, we are welcoming Michelle. How are you doing? Good, it is great to have you. As you can tell, I'm going a little bit off on the Express News. I don't know what it is about me, but I like to let the media have it a little bit. But look, I'm going to set the stage for what this is and how this is going to look and the things we can talk about. Obviously, a lot going on, right? Michelle has a lot happening in right now, both some legal issues which we cannot speak to. Obviously, she won't speak about. But there's also all these things about what she's running in the campaign and life. And one of the things we always try to do in a broadcast is when we bring people on is to make sure they have an opportunity to just put their own self out there. Okay. Their own thoughts and ideas. Right. Who you are, what you think. And we all know you bring it. We all know you, and we want to see that tonight too. We want you to bring the facts and let us have what you really think about the political system and what's happening in the race. But people also need to know who you are. Exactly. You can't lob bombs, and I've seen it in politics myself. You can't lob bombs from the cheap seats, and you don't actually know, right, who's on the receiving end of that. So we want to learn a little bit about you, and we're going to start off with that tonight, so you can tell us who you are, what brought you here, and then we'll get into the good stuff and the politics, and I trust you will tell us exactly what you think. So you do it, I do it, and it's a great opportunity to have a conversation. So right up front, first question. Let us know what in the hell brought you into politics. I mean, talk about your family, how you made those decisions.
Well, everybody knows that I actually went to be a law enforcement officer. And so that's kind of where I came into the law enforcement portion of it. Was on the front line, did the 911 dispatch calls. I worked everything you possibly can think of within law enforcement. But when I was out there on the street, I noticed that there was a different kind of calling than the first calling that I heard. I got feedback from the community, the negativity that was going on with law enforcement, the concerns they had, what they were wanting more of out of our law enforcement individuals. So that kind of started steering me in the direction of maybe I should seek elected position within law enforcement. So I discussed it over with my husband and family, and this was something it was going to be a passion. I knew it, I felt it, and I'm like, okay, let me talk with my family. So we went forward. And of course, I decided to run for Bexar County Constable Precinct 2.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. And I know there was a lot of yellow journalism out there, misleading stories. Not the first Hispanic female Bexar County Constable in Precinct 2, which I was. I was actually elected, not appointed. There was another, Minx, I believe was her name. She was actually appointed into the seat, but because her husband passed away back in the old days, they would appoint the wife into the seat. And so, again, it's, if we go back into yellow journalism, misleading stories, we're looking at how, the media affects a lot of minds that are out in the community, and it leads them to see something that's not really there. And so it does have an influence when you're running for office.
Oh, it has a huge influence.
It does, huge.
It's almost overweight. It's too much, right? Like
exactly.
The influence. I mean, it changes elections, right? The media doesn't seem to be reporting any longer what's happening. They're literally moving and changing elections. They consider themselves like they're doing a public service, right? Like, oh, I'm doing a public service.
Exactly, and they're not.
It's my job to go out there and uncover the truth as I see it.
Right, and we as community members or individuals, we want to believe that these news reporters are actually reporting fact stories. But it's unfortunate that it misleads the mind of an individual to see something that's not really there without actually laying the facts out before them.
So
they don't have a fair, clear mind to make a fair decision on who they're voting for into office.
So your family, your husband's with you here tonight, and those are your two boys, right?
Two of them's with me tonight.
So I would tell you one of them goes to Holmes. I don't want to rat you out too much, but I went to Jay. So we have a problem already, right? Like, this is not good. I'm a Mustang, he's a Husky.
Right.
They're both here this evening. I wanted to make sure I mentioned the both of them.
Well, thank
and
you.
Your husband here to support you as well. And when you're, no matter who you are politically, your family is always, like, literally.
They're involved.
Always involved, right?
Yes,
they're block walking, they're taking the heat as well.
Yes, they take it along with us too.
Almost always. So it's very difficult. So you got elected in the constable's office.
Yes.
And man, I got to tell you, it was pretty clear in the news that you immediately started in on it. So as much as stuff you were talking about, so you gave us some background on, well, you created a patch and some other things.
There's just so much out there.
What happened with all that? Talk to me about how it started with you.
How it started to get to
how got to all there.
Okay, sure. As soon as I walked into office, pretty much I was already on the media. And so what I went in there to do is what I was exactly elected to do. I listened to the constituents. I, wanted to know what they were wanting, what they were needing in an elected official within the constable's office. So what I did is when I heard what they were telling me is, hey, Constable, what makes you so different from everybody? I'm sorry, back then it was Miss Vella. What makes you so different from all the other elected constables here in Precinct 2? I think that the most important thing for me was a compassion to listen to their concerns and then to go be elected into the office and execute what they were looking for in a constable. The feedback that I was getting at that administration at that time, these officers were having 2-hour lunches. All right, they were cutting their hair on county time. They were using the patrol units for personal errands, and that's on taxpayers' money. And so you can hear, I could just get the information coming in from the community members of what are you going to do about it? So as soon as I got elected, as soon as I walked in the door, sweared everybody in, and we got to work immediately with my new administration, correct? And so we looked at those issues. And so one of the main things that we did right away was, okay, guys, from now on, the patrol units are used on county time for county business while you're on official duty. And so right after you are done with your official duty, park in the secured area, go home, just like the rest of us. We drive our personal cars to work and back home. Why not? And that would save us tremendous amount of time, tremendous amount of taxpayers' money, because we're looking into gas-wise. Because think about it, you're driving around town, pretty much additional hours, that's additional gas.
Sure, where does it go off the rails, though? That's what I want to know. How do you get?
Well, we had.
How did you get into this? It started with the media, I think, over the patch, right?
Well, no, actually started day one when I walked in actually into the office, because you're looking at making changes on an administration that had been working with the previous administration for probably two terms or more. And so they had their custom ways of doing things. And also you got to look at the fact that I'm a woman coming into a male-dominated law enforcement leadership role.
You're saying you walk into the office to begin with, and it's already...
The drama's already there.
It's already there.
It's already there. It's stacked, and it's going to happen, and I know it. But, it's not going to discourage me from going forward as what I was elected to do. There's tough issues. We got to address them, guys. We got to bring it on the table. We got to lay it down, and now we got to see how we're going to fix these issues. Of course, one of them was the patrol units. We also went in there saying, okay, let's make some history, right? We made history, and my constituents were excited, they were happy. I mean, this is the first time that they got a Latina, Hispanic, female constable. They wanted to be appreciative of it. So I said, okay, so we got a little feedback from the community. One of them was Apaches, and I worked alongside with my administration. This wasn't just like, oh my God, I'm gonna go in there and make a patch and it's only gonna be for me. That was not the intention at all. And I think that's where the misleading story comes in. Like, this female came in here and she made a patch and it's just about her.
Well, I mean, you do have to understand, I'm gonna push back on you a little bit.
Sure.
Because, you know, people are gonna see that, they're gonna think, all right, well, that's pretty, I mean, it's pretty self-serving to put the patch on there. I can see that, and that's probably what the public started was saying was, all right, that looks pretty, okay, like, and I get it,
yeah,
I get it.
But I gotta say that wasn't our only patch. We had different designs of patch. They just singled that one out.
And that made the news at first, right? And then came a few other things that I'd like you to address when you're talking about the trips and things like that. So help us understand when you're filing to go these trips and the pay reports and all this other stuff. So that made a lot of news initially too, and I want to give you an opportunity to kind of address that when you're talking about, look, you make these trips, you go to these training situations.
Right.
But these
and
are the issues.
And that kind of goes into my legal stuff.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I have to back off and not speak
fair
too
enough,
much
fair
about
enough,
it.
fair enough. I just wanted you to give as much information as you can.
Yes.
Because I think it's important as you legally can, so that people again understand who you are and how that whole thing works and where you come from. So,
but I could definitely say that when we were a training coordinator, training housing there. I was actually the training administrator. So we held training in the facility there at the office, as well as the administration individuals at times would have to go out and get training, because I felt, okay, here, we're offering training, we're training the officers here in Bexar County, of course our deputies and deputies from outside the county and or officers. But I felt sometimes we should get training from another individual. In other words, I'm not going to sit down and teach you and you're going to turn around and teach me back. I think that at times that does occur across law enforcement here in Bexar County, any agency, but it's fair enough to say, hey, let's go get some training from expertise somewhere else. So that's really important.
So you get into it, and there's many things coming, and obviously you don't want to go too far into the pieces with the training and the filing of reports and all that. I respect that. That's fine. And then you get into it, and there's that. There's the use of vehicles. There's a lot of people would say, and I would like for you to address in your own words as best you can. People say that you're calling out corruption, but there's also corruption in the constable's office, allegedly, right?
Right.
So they're saying the use of vehicles, some of the backlash against some of your own constables. So there's all this going on. So tell us the story of what was really happening within the team and what you were trying to accomplish. And mention your leadership style, what you were trying to bring to the table, what your goals were in the constable's office. Because you're trying to take that and move it into the sheriff's office. And we all know the sheriff's office has got a ton of problems, right?
Yes.
So you have to try to fix that while people are also saying over here.
Still focusing over here in the past.
They're focusing on that. So how far can you go in explaining to us
as far
the alleged things that people are saying are broken within?
Sure. Well, let's clarify something first. As far as the office, there was never anything going on. It ran perfect. I couldn't say perfect. It ran smoothly. Okay, within reason.
Who was the one before you?
Val Flores was before me.
That's right.
And then we also have to look, we have two sections within the constable's office because, a lot of people don't believe that the constables are actually law enforcement. And so we go and we do the exact training as any other law enforcement does. And then we come out, we graduate, and either we go off to work for, municipality and or probably like the sheriff's office or constable's office, which is a constitutional office. And so it depends on what area you land on, but the constables were focusing on criminal and civil law. And so with going with that, we had a section with the civil section where we dealt a lot with writs and also time-sensitive papers. And so with that saying that, there has to become some kind of balance and structure and accountability to time management, preparing, executing out the paperwork, getting out into the community and following through. And what I noticed that here at this constable's office, it was very, they're really far behind on work, tremendous behind on work. And so right away, me and my administration sat down and we start looking at, how are we going to get into the constable's office and make it more efficient and more effective for the taxpayer. So that was one area that we sat down and looked at.
But your position, right? You come in there and you're under attack immediately.
Under
and
attack
I get
immediately,
it. All these things are coming at you. and the news is hitting at almost every chance you get, right? So you're doing a job under the microscope, I understand. And then it leads up all the way to where you literally announce you're running for office, right? So you're having to deal with the attacks on the patch, and what you're saying is the fact that you were a female initially when you walk in the door, which, you know, I'm not saying any woman in law enforcement, I don't know, I can't walk that shoe, I've never been there, right? I don't understand it, but that's, you're saying that was out there, that was stacked against you when you walked in, and you get into this and you're literally fighting, I think, straight with the commissioner's court often.
Well, you know,
so what help us understand what your goal, the problems were with commissioners.
Well, let's go back to the constable's office. As any elected official, we all have a goal. Obviously there was something that wasn't running smoothly in that office. That's why we run, right? Because we want to go in there and we want to make some effective changes for the best of the community.
And you came out of nowhere. You came out of nowhere to pick the seat up.
Right, and so we made history. We got in there, we started working. But also I am inheriting administration that from the beginning, I was being told that they didn't want to listen. They didn't want to, you know, listen to this female coming in. Here comes a woman that doesn't really have law enforcement experience, doesn't really know what she's doing. She ran against guys that had 30 plus years of law enforcement experience. So, you know, why would she be picked for this elected official position? So that right there went around the office, and it just cut at me from the beginning. And, however, I'm not going to use that as an excuse, because I still went in there and I still went ahead as a strong woman to get in that office and make effective, you know.
I got you. I understand. But you got into it, and then you start pushing the issues. You're getting accused of the corruption yourself. Then you get into it, and then you announce that you're running for office. I mean, how did you? Was it just an emotional thing at that moment that they were getting? I mean,
you know, I don't want to say emotion because you know, I think that a lot of
politics all day long. But you walked on the job, and you literally cost yourself a position. So was that intended or planned, or
you know, the thing is that
I'm just curious about how that comes about.
The thing is that, you know, you don't go in there on emotions. High emotions. I mean, you do have emotions. We're human. We all have emotions. But to say I'm going to go in there and I'm going to put my uniform on and I'm going to do this and that, that's not how it works, okay? First of all, I want to make clear, that's not how it works. I'm going there with good intentions with my constituents who back me up to get to the office. I've listened to their concerns and their needs and what they're wanting to be executed in the office. Therefore, I turn around and start executing those. Now, when you go in there into a law enforcement office, such as a constable or a sheriff's office, they are not going to always be as accepting, because here comes a new leader, new changes, and now we have to adopt the new changes of the new leader. So as being an elected official, and you know, the roller coaster goes up and down, okay, until they find some kind of balance with you. And then once you find that kind of balance in your office, and you're able to start running smoothly. And so we found that balance. You know, eventually we have new officers that came over with us. We were able to find some balance.
You were in some...
Because at the beginning, we had a rocky road.
Well, you had some issues with some folks, your own leadership and command staff that
that's where I'm going to go with.
Eliminated, right? I mean, you moved on.
That's where it goes. You see, when I got in there, when I first took office, it wasn't as if when you go to the sheriff's office, you can bring in your own administration. Here at the constable's office, you're not allowed to do that because of civil service protections and so forth. So what I did is I actually went and met with a lot of individuals from Bexar County and said, hey guys, I want to bring in my own administration to have a fair shot into this office. That way I have a team that's on the same board with me. We have the same ideas. They know what we're going to be working with and stuff. Now, that was declined with me. So now I have to go into office and I have to choose some individuals that are already existing there in order to operate. Is that tough? Yeah, it's really tough.
But what about, about some of those people saying, you literally perp walked one of them in front of the,
Well, again, we can't go into that because that's
I understand, okay, fine, you can't go into it, but when you walk them and you do that, it does set a tone, right? So I just think that, from the public's perspective, we see it coming out in the media, and I want you to be able to explain as much of it as you can. The legal pieces are going to get you.
Well, the legal pieces are not what we really want to even go into at all. We don't want to go into the two officers' legal stuff at all.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, fair enough. When you got into resign to run, again, was that accidental, or you just at that moment thought you were going to do it and you jumped into it and cost the job? I'm just curious because you walked on a job at that point, right?
Well, let's specifically say, I know people say, well, she went ahead and she announced that she's going to run for sheriff. Okay, we all know I said it. It's black and white, came out on the media, came out of my words, my mouth. Yes, it did. However, it was one of those utterance moments that took place there. Now, going forward, yes, I did decide to go ahead and go through with it. But at that point when the utterance occurred, I hadn't officially filed anything. I hadn't executed anything. I hadn't done any of that stuff.
Well, the Commissioner's Court came after you.
Exactly, they did because of the constitutional law. And I do want to make one thing clear. A lot of people, there's a lot of comments that says, well, you know, Constable doesn't really know the constitutional law. She would have known that. But also, you got to keep in mind, I never said that I didn't know anything. People have a right to freedom of speech. And so
you got yourself in a tough position on that one.
You still have a freedom of speech.
You did. You got yourself in a tough position.
And
you
so forward, we went
But you got in the race. You got in the sheriff's race.
Yes.
So and over the last couple of the months since you announced, you've been really railing on a lot of corruption. So lay it out with the corruption pieces about what you're seeing in Bexar County, what you're seing in Commissioner's Court. Give us some things you know that are broken. That need to be fixed.
I think that, you know, if we just look at law enforcement in general, we have in any field, not just law enforcement, but across any field, we have good apples and bad apples. That's across the board anywhere. So not just particularly in the constable's office, not just particularly in the sheriff's office. But I do also want to clarify that we have some really good deputies that really do the job every day the way they should be doing it. So I really want to just throw it out there on top.
I got you.
Now, as far as the other stuff, I mean, we just got to keep on going forward, and we have to get in there, me as an elected official going in that position and or as a candidate going forward.
Look, you're running for something. You claim to be, you're running for sheriff in a system you claim to be wholly corrupt.
Right.
So what is corrupt? You've mentioned some of the commissioners, their decision-making process. Right. You stood on the steps of the courthouse and let them have it.
Exactly.
So what is corrupt? I mean, give us something. Talk to us about some
and I'm going to go general on that because we are in a legal situation. And so that's kind of why I'm hesitant to answer some of your stuff. If I wasn't in a legal situation, we more than definitely would be talking some more.
Well, yeah, you've lost some pretty heavy bombs,
we
right?
definitely do have corruption here in Bexar County. I can definitely tell you that.
Give me an example of something that you would say.
Okay, let's say if we go back into general speaking, just generally speaking, within law enforcement, as an elected official or as a leader of a law enforcement agency, you have to be willing to listen to your constituents. For example, if there comes in a formal complaint into your office and it alleges that an officer did X, Y, and Z. Are we going to play favoritism to the officer and say, well, we'll take the complaint, we'll just kind of like look through it and I'll give you a slap and move on. That's not how it works.
You're saying someone's playing favorites at the sheriff's office?
I'm giving you a general idea. And so are we going to look at a complaint formally and really look into the facts of that complaint and be fair-minded when we're making a judgment against an officer and or an individual? And so I think that sometimes some individuals, without naming names, are probably not as fair as they should be, and that sometimes tends to lead into a corruption area, generally speaking. That's kind of one example
I gotta tell you, that was, I mean, you're dancing all around that one. I get you, you're careful because of your legal issues.
Exactly.
But you have said, and you've really gone at it, right? Like you're asking to run the Bexar County Sheriff's Office.
Right.
You have to bring a resume to that, and you have to bring a process and an idea of what you're going to do to fix it and get there, right? That's what we want to get to. People want to know, what can you do? What is your plan, and what are you going to do to get there?
So
and then
when we get there,
a lot of the corruption pieces.
Right. There's a lot of corruption. And again, I'm not going to really go into that no more because I do have, legal advice not to get into that anymore from going forward. And so we're going to keep that for the courts. And I think it's best that the courts decide. I feel that justice is going to prevail. It always does. I always said right is right and wrong is wrong.
It was tough. We all know that. And what happened the last week, tough. It was tough. I mean, it was all over the news.
Right.
I get that. I mean, I get that. And it's difficult. And I think publicly to have to go through that is difficult. And you're still standing here right now. So you're still running for office. Is that correct?
I'm still running for office. And so we need to refocus.
You're not going to resign or stop?
We need to refocus on the sheriff's office. I know that we're getting comments and ask her this, ask her that. Bottom line, guys,
people want to know.
Everybody knows I've spoken about corruption. It exists here in Bexar County without going into too much detail. But I also believe that, in order to get to some kind of balance in our justice system, that's a tough issue that needs to be spoken about. I've spoken about it before. Of course, I can't get into too much detail going forward right now, but I can definitely tell you that the strong leadership that I have within myself helps me continue to go forward from the constable's office and to making the decision to go forward into the Bexar County Sheriff's Office.
Well, people just want to know people want to know what part of it you're going to carry forward.
There are some tough issues at the Bexar County Jail or the Bexar County office. Let's look at that. Let's focus on not so much the bad negativity,
what people do want to know, and let's be honest here, and I get it, we'll move on, because I want to talk about what you're going to do at the sheriff's office. People want to know that too. But people want to know, Michelle, how you're going to take what's happened at that and put a race into and try to be the Bexar County Sheriff. Like, how is that going to transfer into that? People are curious about that.
Sure.
And they have a right to be. They have a right to be, because they have a right to make the decision. And I get where we talked before about making sure the legal stuff is protected and you can't say certain things. But at the end of the day, people want to know, you know what, we've seen this and that. And I want you to be able to dispel what the media is saying versus who you really are.
And I get that. But you know what, at the same token, we have to be very cautious on the legal stuff. And so, yes, we all know what happened a few days ago. We know what happened. It existed. It happened. And we also know that I have a due process to be entitled to. And so I'm going to execute that due process.
And we're innocent until proven guilty.
That is right, until proven guilty.
It goes for everybody. I don't care who you are, and that's one of the things we set the ground rule at the beginning was you are innocent until proven guilty in this country. Everybody has that due process piece, and we all respect that. So what are you going to bring to the Bexar County Sheriff's Office?
Good. Now we're on to good subjects
Well, because people want to, this is all part of your story, right? And I'm trying to be respectful because I want you, and everybody who comes on here, I don't ever try to call them a bad politician or any of the sort. I do let them have a free reign to say what the hell they think. So you're coming into the sheriff's office race, you're going after Javier. Obviously, you got the name ID by far to get it, right? People know who you are.
Yes, they do.
So you've got that. You see problems at the sheriff's office. Give me the corruption, the breakdown, the things that are missing at the sheriff's office. I want to know what you think needs to be fixed and how you're going to do it. Because
well, we all know that there's mental health issues that are occurring currently right now. We have high rates of suicide. We have deputies doing some seriously overtime. 3 days, I think, is where they're at now for overtime. And so those are some issues, and we have to look at how that's affecting the Bexar County office. We also have a lot of misuse of county funds. I believe they spent an estimate idea of $1.5 million in 3 months for overtime for officers. Then we also have to look at the Bexar County Sheriff's Office is so short-staffed right now.
What do you think makes that happen, though?
I believe it starts from the top, from the leadership on top. And then you also have to look at the morale of the officers, what's going on in there. You also have to look at the connection that the leadership on the top also has with the deputies. And so that, I can attest to that. You have to build a relationship with your deputies. And we'll refer back to constables real quick. I built a relationship with those deputies over at Precinct 2. You have to have that in order to be more effective.
The media reported the opposite.
The media can report everything.
I'll push back on you a little bit on that because the media said there's breakdowns in that, and we don't want to go back too far on it.
Well, it's kind of like in your situation. Media pushed on you, and you kept saying, "Well, wait a minute, that's not quite what happens here." So we're kind of reversed right now. I'm kind of in the situation you were before, where media's
and I want you to be able to.
And you're like, "Well, wait a minute."
Yeah, I want you to be able to say what you can in defense of yourself too.
Exactly.
Because you're asking to still run, right? You're still going for it. You're still saying, okay, I'm going to take what I've done and your resume is the constable's office. So you have to take that to the sheriff's race.
Well, that's not the only resume that I bring. So let's go.
Law enforcement piece.
Right, for law enforcement
give us your qualifications, what you're going to do when you walk into the sheriff's office. People want to know that. It was a question that came up multiple times.
So let's start with the qualifications, then we move on to what we're going to do at the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. So qualifications I offer is that I bring business experience with me. And so we've owned a business for over 20 years here in San Antonio that's been very successful. We've been very blessed. And so, from that, we learn how to manage. You have to do budget, you have to supervise, you have to buy, you have to do budget analysis. There's just so much intertwined when you want to have a successful business, because anybody can have a business, but can it be a successful business and a credible business also? So I bring that with me. And with that also, I went to go to school to be a paralegal, so I did do that too.
How long do you have the peace officer license? It was a question.
I went to the police academy back in 2007, graduated in 2008. And the reason why, because there was a 2-week break between the holidays, so I had to wait for 2 weeks before I could actually take a test in 2008. Or technically, I would have graduated in 2007.
So 12 years with a peace officer's license?
Yes. And I started off over at the sheriff's office as a reserve deputy.
Okay.
And so there I went over the constables for a while, and I've also worked over at Somerset for a bit, and then I wind up back over in the constable's office. So most of my career with my experience has been with the county. And also I've learned, I probably did everything you can think of in law enforcement. I've done the patrolling on the street. I've done supervising on the street. I've been an FTO field training officer on the street.
So you've been an FTO too.
Yes.
So you come to the sheriff's office. Give me the 3 things you think are broken and how you're going to fix them.
Sure.
I mean, you've said that there's plenty of issues.
Yeah, there's a laundry list of issues.
So give me the laundry list.
Okay,
2
well,
or
we
3
can start.
things right
Sure,
now.
we can start with the mismanaged budget funds. That's a big issue of how we're going to allocate the money more efficiently and wisely. So that's one concern. Another one, we got to look at the deputies that are in there, the overtime that they're doing, the extreme demands that it puts on their bodies. And I'll give you an example. You know, you have an officer that's working, 40 hours plus, and now he has to do mandatory overtime. Yeah, and he has to get into a vehicle, right? He has to get into a vehicle, and or she has to get into a vehicle, and they have to drive home. That is an effect on the body. I kind of compare it to DWI because, mentally your mind has already started breaking down after so many hours of not having enough sleep. And so now you're putting the officer in harm's way, but you're also putting the community members that are out there in harm's way. And so I think as a strong leader, that is a tough issue that we need to speak about.
So overtime, morale.
Right.
That's broken.
Right.
What's the second piece you want to work on? How about?
Oh gosh, a number of things. Mental health, high suicides. I mean,
jail administration.
Jail administration is probably one of the top ones. And so as a leader, as me taking the office in 2020, because I'm going to say Michelle Barrientes Vela is going to be your next Bexar County Sheriff. So when I get in there and take that office, we have to prioritize. I have to get in there. I can't tell you right now, Brockhouse, we're going to look at this or that. It is going to be a combination of things laid out before me, and I have to sit with my administration. We have to prioritize which ones are the most important all the way down. But yes, the jail administrator is very important. It's one of the top things that need to be on top.
So you think Javier should be fired? Why do you think he should be fired? I mean, people want to know what's the difference between you and him and how you're going to get it done. Because right now they're not. Sure. I mean, there are people who are not happy with Javier. Yeah. There are people who support him. Obviously, he's gotten endorsements. We want to show the interesting one today. If you put it up, I want to show this with Nelson Wolff. Put up the one first that doesn't have the picture of Nelson. Wow. It says Nelson Wolff 1. You got to see this. This is crazy, right? Wolff 1? Yeah, Wolff number 1. Look at this. It says right here, Sheriff Salazar is a hard worker and truly cares about the safety of Bexar County. I'm proud to endorse the re-election of Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar. That was today posted, of course. And then the next one I want to show, this was just a little while ago. If he was a hired employee, meaning Javier Salazar, he wouldn't be running the jail, Wolff said during an impromptu press conference this afternoon. This many incidents in the last several months is unheard of, right? So that's like total call out. I don't get it. Thursday, at this point, from that Thursday, there was 13 inmates that accidentally walked out of the jail. I don't get it. Javier had to go arrest one of them himself. So you need to hire a professional jail administrator. So there it is, Nelson Wolff, right?
Right. He's contradicting himself.
So Wolff going right after Javier, and then a few months later, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't understand the endorsement. I'm just throwing that out there that's a total contradiction. But why should we fire him? I mean, let us. You got to make the case.
Because, I mean, the case is that right. The case is that I'm not afraid to talk about tough issues when needed. I'm not afraid to get up there and get in and do the work. I'm hands-on. You're not going to see me on the camera smiling 24/7. That's just not who I am. If I'm in front of a camera, well, it's because we know all this yellow journalism's out there, and sometimes I have to present myself. But the true fact is I don't have time to be smiling just to smile for a camera shot every 5 minutes. And I'm a very compassionate person. I'm a strong leader. I'm also humane. And so there's so much characteristics that I bring to the table also, but my work ethics are tremendous. And I'm not trying to be an individual who says that I'm the best. That's not what I'm saying. But anyone that has worked alongside me on a daily basis every day knows that I'm the leader that's went in there to the office. I wasn't putting in 40 hours a week. You're looking at a leader that put 70, 80 hours a week. You didn't work with me, but those are the hours I would put in. I'm the leader that when there was enough budget to put on functions for the community, I was the leader that actually paid for all that to put on functions for the community. I was a leader that got with my...
Michelle. You're going at... You are basically saying you got to fire the incumbent. That's what this is. I was in the same boat, right? Had to fire the incumbent.
Bottom line, he doesn't have business experience. I mean, that's the bottom line. Okay. Javier does have no kind of business experience at all. And I think that plays a factor into how the Bexar County jail system is being managed and functioned. So that is a concern. Does he have the business experience to get in there and do this? Because at the end of the day, you have to look at the Bexar County Jail. Is it just a law enforcement, or is it also a business? And it's both, and I have both aspects. And also because since we own and run a professional business here, I value that dollar. I know the importance of a dollar. How am I going to work with the taxpayers' money to allocate into the office?
A couple of questions to wrap up. How are you going to work with Commissioner's Court? Because you've gone at them.
Right,
I mean, you've said some pretty straight things about Justin Rodriguez and a couple other folks. You've really gone at them, right? And plus, they've come back at you, and Nelson did as well. He was leading the charge of you resigned to run, and they came after you. And I get that. It was tit for tat.
Well, if you refer back to one of the meetings at the commissioners, I stood before them and I told them that let's put everything aside, get back on track, and start being elected officials that we were chosen to be and move forward and working together. Now, I was never given that opportunity from day one as soon as I walked in the door. I mean, it was negativity, people reaching out to the media, she's doing X, Y, and Z, yellow journalism across the board. It consistently just kept going. So I never had the fair opportunity to get in there and actually be the constable that I should have or could have been allowed to have been. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I was cut off on a lot of things that we're not being able to speak about here today. But also, I wasn't allowed a certain budget, and that was another problem that we came across. When I was in that office, we didn't have enough funding for the civil section of our office. And there was times that I went into my personal pocket and paid for a lot of this mail to go out for the constituents because they had paid for a service, and yet we didn't have enough funding for it. So what was I going to tell my constituent? So I dug into my personal pockets and I paid for a service for these people. Then I would go back and I would fight with the commissioners to get reimbursed. That's a fight over there. That's a fight because they're just like,
we're going to wrap up right now. I want to make sure I get a couple more points in. I want to give you a shot to tell it like it is and tell people like where the corruption is and the things you're going to fix.
Okay.
And you know what, look, people, and I get it. People say all kinds of things. I've been a part of it. I've been in politics, and you're exactly right. They come at me with everything they had.
They do.
And I just kept smiling. I'm like, I got to keep going. I mean, it is what it is. They're going to say what they're going to say, and you keep going. And yes, I believe there is a lot of media bias in the city. And those of you making comments and getting tough and on the comment sections, there is media bias. And I think the media tries to drive the narrative in San Antonio and tries to get people elected or unelected, and they take it too far.
Exactly. But we also got to look at some of our people that come on these Facebook posts and stuff. We talk about law enforcement bullying. We talk about bullying across the board with elected officials, but yet we have, and I hate to use the word trolls, but I call it like it is. We have trolls that get on our Facebook and make comments, but yet you're doing what we're trying to teach our children not to do, is to bully someone. Don't go to high school, don't bully someone, because you have people and children that we've lost to this. And so if we go back into the adult phase of us being grown-ups, I think we should be more professional and not actually be bullying people, because believe it or not, if I wasn't strong-minded and the support with God and the support with my family, a person that's really weak would have probably been beat down by now. I choose not to be that person. Could have, but I choose not to be that person.
So closing argument.
We're going forward.
Last couple thoughts from you. I want to just wrap up. A lot of legal things that Michelle can't go into.
Right.
So we've been kind of around issues, and you've got. One of the things I think people want to see is you just call it out. And because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for answers too, Michelle.
Oh,
they want to know. They want to know how you're going to do the job, because an indication of what you've done in the past, an indication of what you can do in the future. The media has painted a broken and
we all know that the media paints a picture.
That's the picture that's there.
Right,
so I want you to to give it a minute and let people know what, as much as you can, where that's broken and the corruption is, what you're going to do for it, and how you're going to convince people in spite of all of that. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that's coming out, that has come out, and you can't talk about 3/4 of it right now because of what's happened recently with the legal side. But I want to know, just let people know, give them a straight look and say, this is what I am, this is where I've been, and this is how I'm going to fix it. And by the way, give us a few call outs if you got them on anything you're going to challenge and that you think is media
What
corruption.
makes me different from the other elected or the other candidate and or the individual that takes the seat right now is that my contact number is 210-430-8542. I said that because you have a direct contact with me. As being an elected official before and as being a candidate moving forward to the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, you know, to have that close communication with me, to be able to reach me when you want to speak to me, because at the end of the day, you elected me into this office. I brought that tough leadership. I've been there. I fought some tough issues. I'm continuing to fight tough issues. I'm not a tough leader that's going to go in there and get the work done when you ask me to, regardless of repercussions. There are mental health issues. We have high rates of suicide. We have deputies doing some overtime. The list goes on: mental health, suicides, inmates escaping, misuse of budget funds. I bring the qualifications of business with me. I bring the law enforcement with me. And I've been there on the front lines with my deputies working hand in hand to know what they were going through. That way, when I went back to the office, now I know how to address and tough issues that we need to take care of. So I have the compassion. I'm a mom. I have 6 children. I'm a wife for over 20 years, business owner, law enforcement, and the list goes on. The bottom line is that you need someone that is elected for the people and by the people, that's willing to sit down and listen to your issues and move forward with those. I'm that individual. And I look forward to being your next Bexar County Sheriff here in the upcoming election in 2020. And please, at the end of the day, there is yellow journalism out there. We both have gone through yellow journalism. We both have actually had negativity in front of us. And as you can see, there's 2 tough individuals still sitting before you doing a job that we love to do, be involved with our community. So we're going to keep moving forward, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
All right. Okay. So I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. Look, tough times. No. And I know it's not easy. And people are in here, you know, they're making comments as I'm looking at them. And people are saying, oh, man, that's a softball question, or was she answering this or that? Look, I mean, there are legal issues. She cannot go into some things, and trust me, I sure would want you to call out as much as you can, because I think the system does deserve it. I think people watching tonight, we got a lot of people, over a couple hundred folks watching.
Right.
They want to know, and I just would tell you, Michelle, they want to know what's the truth. They want to see you defend the actions and the things that happen, and then how are you going to do the job?
Again, we have the due process that I am entitled to.
I'm just make sure people know. I'm making sure people know that you can't get into probably 3/4 of it.
Yes.
So it's a tough conversation, and we kind of danced around some things, but you are, you have to take care of yourself and your family, and you have your due process. I want to thank you for coming on. I'm going to wrap up. We appreciate you.
I appreciate
Thank you very much. Good conversation.
Thank you.
All right, so Michelle Barrientes Vela is running for the Bexar County Sheriff. She's up against the incumbent Javier Salazar. She's got a couple other people in that primary. The Republican side has Willie Ning, Gary Garcia, and a couple, and who else is in that other one over there on the Republican side? I remember just Willie, Gary, and Rickoff for some reason. You want to talk about somebody with that has absolutely zero law enforcement experience running for sheriff? It is Jerry Rickoff, I think, who's in the race. So it's kind of shaping up, obviously, on the Republican side, looking like a Ning-type race. He may win that, Willie. This is all coming up. February 18th is the start of early voting. Election day is March 3rd. Hey, look, man, I mean, this is a tough conversation. I'm looking at a lot of the comments, too. It's tough to, you can only go so far into it and get these answers to things, and because of the pending legal issues. So it's hard. We got to listen. We also got to be fair. I think one of the things that I noticed in the comments is that a lot of personal attacks and stuff, and it makes it difficult to dig through and get to the real answers. If you come on these things and you're looking for somebody to make a mistake or to pound, that's fine. I'm all for that. I love it. But you also got to understand that, the personal attacks, they get a little out of control, and you see that, and it's hard to get in these types of situations when there's such a massive legal side, it's hard to poke into certain things. And Michelle and I talked about that before she came on tonight and said, hey, look, there's probably a bunch I can't say, but she has to make the case, right? She has to prove it to you that she's worthy of the job and that she can do the job, and part of that depends on the work she's done in the past. And I would caution you, from personal experience as well, sometimes the media does absolutely get it wrong, and you got to be careful of that. So we have to let people talk, say what they think, and prove themselves in their own words and voice. And if they make the case, they make the case. If they don't, they don't. But you got to do it, and you got to do it all on your own. So we thank you for that. We also got Jose Trevino in the race. Deborah wanted to make sure I said that. And then Delmer there with Willie Ning for sheriff. So we've got a lot of people running in the race. Pay attention, it matters. Democrat, Republican primaries, February 18th. The election day is March 3rd. So real quick, we're kind of getting late on time here, right, Sally? Where are we at? Oh, shoot, we've got to wrap up, man. We're in wrap-up mode. A couple of things I want to make sure everybody knows before we hop into some memes. Look, the president's in a world of hurt right now. Looks like there potentially could be witnesses in the impeachment process. So we're going to follow that one, because what happens is right now is Mitch McConnell's got to have 51 votes to block witnesses from being brought into the Senate trial. We do know that John Bolton is publishing a book here real soon. It has blown the lid off the impeachment process in the sense that there are some wavering Senate Republicans, 4 or 5 of them. If they flip, we're going to get witnesses, but we're also going to get potentially a quid pro quo of witnesses. So you could see, and you want to talk about a great time to watch television. If you ever, I mean, if you watched any of this stuff with impeachment, it's boring as hell. I'm just telling you right now, it's absolutely boring. Sometimes it's fun, but it's terribly boring. But if you can see John Bolton in the well of the Senate testifying, and then they bring in Hunter Biden, right? I mean, this could potentially be great. Joe Biden's already said, I'm not testifying. But Hunter Biden in a 1-for-1, maybe they do a trade. They bring one of these other cast of characters on. Hunter Biden making $50,000 a month on the board of Burisma while his father is the vice president of the United States. That guy has no experience in the oil and gas industry, but he's making $50K a month. Why is that? Because his dad is the vice president of the United States, right? So him in the well of the Senate, I think this 1-for-1 thing is going to be very interesting to watch. But again, this all plays back to where are the real demographics here? What is this looking like in the battleground states that we know the president has commanding leads in, but he has to win that. This is an electoral college battle. This isn't a polling battle. This isn't a, well, this person and 51% of these people want the president gone. It's not that kind of battle. It's a 538 battle. It's an electoral college battle. And can the president of the United States hold the line enough, right, to where in these 12 or 13 states he's in a position to win the electoral college, going to get slaughtered in the popular vote. We all know that's going to happen. Can he win the electoral college? I think he can. I think impeachment's getting out of control. And if they bring witnesses in, man, you got to watch it at that point. You got to spend some time. Sal and I will probably do a whole show, just the two of us talking about how comical this is going to be to see Hunter Biden or God knows who else in the well of the Senate testifying. I think Republicans do have the edge, but the Democrats have messaged well. They have come in now and really taken this witness piece with the John Bolton potential manuscript and book. Tough. So we're going to see what's coming our way on that. City Council's back in session this week. Couple of things on tomorrow is the B session. My on deck at City Hall is up and running. I've got an e-blast I send out that lists the issues that are happening for the week. If you're interested in getting it, shoot me a private message here on the Facebook page, and we'll include you on the e-blast list where we talk about the top issues that are happening on Wednesday's B session and Thursday's City Council. Tomorrow they talk about Connect SA and that multi-billion-dollar boondoggle project that Ron Nirenberg's bringing to revamp the entire transportation system while taking money away from the Edwards Aquifer and our linear creekways. So it's a very interesting debate, and we're going to watch it and keep an eye on it. I think Connect SA is a joke. Henry Cisneros is briefing it tomorrow, so that ought to tell you what the level of this is, and the council and the mayor are going down this path because they think they have the answers on it. Connect SA is up tomorrow. It's going to be huge. Don't forget, that does mean no more aquifer money, which I think is bad policy. I think the aquifer and the creekways, the linear creeks, have been a huge success for the city of San Antonio, and we have to continue to maintain it. That is up tomorrow as well as moving different types of money around and future bond dollars to pay for Ron Nirenberg's transportation plan. He hasn't been able to fix transportation as a city council member. He's not able to fix it as the mayor, but we'll see what happens. And don't forget, all of this wraps around transportation and housing and all these things, all these billions of dollars Ron Nirenberg is spending wraps around his Green New Deal, right? That's all of that together. All of these things are combined. Ron's Green New Deal, Climate Action Plan, transportation, housing. That's $10 billion of your tax money being spent by Ron Nirenberg to build his resume. He doesn't care about what the city of San Antonio or how we're going to pay for these things. He's going to do bond, he's going to do additional debt, he's going to take sales tax. It's not what the community wants. We have to keep an eye on it, expect more on that in the future. Over the next couple of days, too, on Thursdays, the City Council A session. Just pay attention for what's happening out there. Not a lot of big items, but some things with council pay. So council members are going to get their, council aides are going to get their pay adjusted. There's also a National League of Cities Leading Together City Initiative. Pay attention to this one. The city is passing a resolution on Thursday to adopt this Cities Leading Together agenda. One of the agenda items is reducing gun violence, right? So they're going to sign on to a resolution, much like the Paris Climate Accord. This one's with the National League of Cities. but it includes provisions and opportunities to try to reduce gun violence. That is code word for red flag laws, taking guns off the street, and punishing law-abiding, Second Amendment honoring men and women in our community. This resolution on Thursday matters. Watch it. You got to pay attention to it because it could potentially limit, right? All the way from background checks and everything else. The city's already tried to do that with gun buyback and other things, but they slowed down. But it's coming back. That will be this Thursday as well, a resolution on reducing gun violence. It's slipping through the cracks. They're not telling people about it because it's far-reaching and it's got some problems. So all that's coming up on Thursday. Oh, by the way, the housing for homeless mobile shower unit's going to get voted on this coming Thursday as well. $53,000 for a mobile shower unit for the housing folks. That's going to pass this Thursday. As always, we like to wrap up with some fun stuff and some memes. We appreciate you as obviously very much for tuning in. We had a good showing tonight, and we tried to do the best we could with our guests to get to some of the points that matter most to you. Hopefully we got some things answered. And by the way, we just got to know who these people are so we can vote for them. Everybody deserves a forum. And you've got an opportunity. You've got your name on the ballot. Give us a call. Republican, Democrat, Progressive, Conservative. It doesn't make any difference. Give us a holler. We'll bring you on the show. The broadcast is for everybody. It's for everybody. You can come on, and I promise you I'll treat you with respect. And you got to know that that's the truth, because while some people want to bring somebody on and then humiliate them or attack them or prove them as an unworthy candidate, at the end of the day, they'll do that themselves, right? If you ask them questions, what's your plan, idea, what are you going to do? They either rise to the top or they show their true colors. It's not for the person asking the questions to destroy. It's the same thing for the media. It's not for you to try to destroy the person. The person will do that to themselves with bad ideas, bad leadership, bad resume. But it's not on us. And for those of you challenging that, oh, you got to rip this person. It's not on us as people who are putting words out there and information to change a narrative. It's for us to give the platform and let people do it themselves. So, closing thought on that. Let's go to some memes. Salo, by the way, was fired. We had a serious show tonight. So Salo was fired from doing the memes, but we got to put a few of them up, have some fun after that debate interview and all that stuff. My kids asked me what it was like growing up in the 80s, so I took away their phones and turned off the internet. Yeah, that's exactly right. You want to talk about kids crying across the nation? That's what would happen if we wanted to find out. What do we got next? Some of y'all got the coronavirus. Yep. No, that's not what the virus is actually called. It is called the coronavirus. I love this one right here. From this hashtag, Gotta Do Better SA. It's a Facebook page. Have you seen this? No. This page is absolutely ridiculous, and it's awesome. So they put memes and stuff up, and their whole theme is San Antonio, you got to do better. They like to make fun of my alma mater, Marbach Road. I'm a little pissed off about that, but it is what it is. So pray for Chucky on Southwest Military. He's on that shit. Look at Chucky in 2010. And 2010, he's looking awful thin. Awful thin. Lot scratching himself a lot. Kids these days will never know this excitement. Do you remember going to buy those photos and you just don't know what you were going to get? Like when you opened it, like what's been exposed or what looks good or bad? Awesome. It's awesome. The most embarrassing interaction with police. The Wienermobile pulled over in Wisconsin for a traffic infraction. That is not a cool vehicle. But it drives around San Antonio. I love this one. This is for Elizabeth out there. She's a dog lover. And my wife, a dog lover. How my dog sees himself when the doorbell rings. Look at that, man. He is locked and loaded he's ready to respond, dude. He's got the flak jacket on, too. Trying to decide if I want to be starting something. You know, when you see that, you're singing it in your head. I want to be starting something, got to be starting. Next one. Mom, can we get Disney Plus? Mom, yeah, we got Disney Plus at the house. Nobody can play those videotapes anymore. Oh my God, you're killing me. Finding Nemo? Finding Nemo, really? When you see something you don't want to see, there's the holy water. That's me at Mass, bro. That's me at Mass with the holy water. The holy water. Okay, Walmart, the only store that, I love this one. This is from my wife. That will let you check yourself out, then assume you stole it as you walk out the door. They jump you at the Walmart door. Let me see that receipt. Bro, I just checked out. Let me see the receipt. Chiefs and 49ers, and people just happy that the Patriots aren't in it. That dominates. Big game this Sunday. And this one is totally my wife right here. My wife be like, I miss you. When I get home, She's mean to me the whole time. What the hell did you miss? Bullying me? Oh my God. And Kylo Ren. When you think the sink is full of dirty dishes, the trash needs to go out, and the washer and dryer are full. Now I know what I have to do, but I don't want to. If you watched Star Wars, you know exactly what that means. It's right when he kills Han Solo. Give me a break. I'm this old. Who remembers that? Eating on the carpet, playing that video game, playing Nintendo. This one's for you, Salo Latinos and the coronavirus with Vicks. It fixed everything. Vicks in the aloe vera plant. Every Latino's parent has a aloe vera plant in the front yard. Fixes it all. All right, so check it out. We're done. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. To wrap up the evening, of course, we always talk about things on our broadcast. Everybody's invited. You can come on. We're trying to push information as best we can. It's all about the ideas. Voting is coming up, and we're bringing candidates on because we want them to talk about who they are, what they are. Thank you to Michelle Barrientes Vela. It's not easy to walk in any forum and try to tell people who you are and what you think. It's even more difficult for Michelle with the challenges and things that she's facing, but she showed up, she had the conversation. Again, it's not my role to humiliate anybody or to try to put them in a bad spot. It's to ask a couple questions, see where they go with it, and give you an opportunity to say, is that a person I can support or vote for? I'll do it if it's whoever sits in this chair. Julian Castro could be right next to me. Well, maybe not. I might be a little more challenging to that guy. Julian, if you want to come on, let's sit down and meet the other or something, have a conversation about why you think this country's broke. But nonetheless, look, we love what we're doing. We want to like and share and tag it, push it out there, tell a friend. We're thankful for you showing up and joining us tonight. As we always close it after the meetings, we have a little fun, we have a little hard talk, conversation. Sorry, snowflakes, if you got your meeting, if your feelings hurt, but we are here to put it out there. And we always close it with a simple adios. The broadcast is out.